Now, what is a laptop? Really, what is a laptop? The screen with a keyboard attached, or is it the system that it runs? In terms of the form factor, M-series iPads are closer to the Macs than ever. With a smart keyboard attached and closed, it practically looks like a MacBook. Slightly thick MacBook, but still. Yet the new M4 iPad is much thinner. Apple did some insane magic and made a tablet that's just slightly thicker than the Type-C port. The new Magic Keyboard that's now metal, and you practically get a full-fledged MacBook experience. Big trackpad, backlit keyboard with function row. So this got me asking, can the iPad with an M-series chip replace my Mac? Now, first of all, using the iPad with the keyboard and using a normal MacBook feels different. The iPad kind of levitates or hovers over the keyboard, leading to an overall smaller footprint than that of a MacBook. This clever hinge construction should make it easy to use the iPad on your lap, but I mostly used it on my desk, and overall it was a pretty good experience. I like how the display is closer to me than it is on a MacBook, and I especially like that at any given moment I can just snap off the iPad and use it without a keyboard. However, if you plan on really using your iPad with a Magic Keyboard on your lap, I would recommend you to sit as straight as you can, because the weight distribution of this whole construction is not particularly good. All the weight is in the iPad, and if you lean too far back, it would just fall off of your lap. The same could never happen to a MacBook, all because the most weight is in the base, and the only moving part is the display. But I must admit, when you put a laptop and an iPad with the Magic Keyboard and the table side by side, an iPad just looks better and more modern. Something about this whole construction just makes it feel much more interesting, much more inviting and captivating. Kind of reminds me of those Asus laptops with two screens. The same feeling of being at the cutting edge of technologies. And if you have the Apple Pencil, then the iPad becomes even better. On the MacBook, you have only two ways of interacting, with the keyboard and with a trackpad. On an iPad, you can use a keyboard and trackpad, but you can also use your finger to type on a virtual keyboard, and you can also use a pencil to draw and scribble. The Apple Pencil is what truly transforms the experience. It brings out your creative part that you didn't know existed. And even though I suck at drawing, I still doodle from time to time. There are so many great apps for drawing on the iPad. Some are paid like Procreate, and some are free like Adobe Fresco. You can always just draw in the standard Notes app. There are many options. Everything that I'm saying about the iPad Pro also works with the iPad Air and even the basic iPad 10. All of them have the same sort of attachable keyboard and all support Apple Pencil, albeit different generations of it. The latest M4 iPad Pro and the M2 iPad Air support only the newest Apple Pencil Pro that took all the good stuff from the second gen Apple Pencil and multiplied by 2. They added pressure sensitivity to the pencil, a taptic engine for imitating clicks, and even a special gyroscope that lets you rotate the brushes while drawing. This adds a whole new level of capabilities for artists, and even though I'm not one of them, I can still appreciate the thought that went into this. Yet there's one thing about the new iPads that I don't really like. The new Pencil Pro is only available for the newly released iPad, so if you want to get the ultimate drawing experience from your iPad, you pretty much have to splurge for at least the M2 iPad Air. Even the cheapest M2 iPad Air with a Magic Keyboard and a pencil would cost you over $1,000. This price is comparable to the price of a MacBook Air, and if you are an artist who draws a lot and only occasionally types documents, then maybe an iPad could be a better choice for you. Yet you still need to remember that it's not all unicorns and rainbows for the iPad. It also has a couple of minor setbacks that MacBooks don't have. The biggest one is software. No matter how many desktop-like apps Apple tries to bring to the iPad, all those apps are still not as powerful as they are in the Mac. And the system itself has tons of limitations, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, so I will start with simpler stuff. Games. If you want to play, say, Android games on your iPad or iPhone, you will face limitations. That's just how it is. On macOS, you could simply install apps like Moomoo Player Pro and enjoy the latest Android apps right on your Mac. Moomoo Player Pro is a fantastic Android emulator that runs right on your Mac. Lets me run a full-fledged virtual Android right on my Mac that I can use for playing games or app development. Installing it is super simple. I just open the DMG file on my Mac, agree to everything, and enjoy. The app doesn't take much space on the disk and runs like a champ thanks to the fact that it runs natively on RAM. You can run multiple apps and games simultaneously, allowing application developers to handle multiple events at the same time and enabling gamers to run multiple game accounts. Also, it's fully customizable. I can select the precise device that I want to emulate, create customized mapping, choose the resolution of the output image, and even set the performance profile. This way I can make it run smoothly even on the M1 MacBook Air. With Moomoo Player Pro, installing games is a piece of cake. Just open the Play Store and search for the game I want to play. I can also download mobile applications such as TikTok and Instagram. The control buttons like back, home, or multitasking are in the top right corner of the app, as well as sound controls. Even though I'm emulating a Pixel phone that has its own unique architecture, everything works amazingly well. The frame rate is smooth and I see zero lags. It also supports keyboard and mouse as well as wireless controllers. It's basically an ultra powerful Android phone on my Mac. I've tested many emulators in my days, and compared to competitors like PlayCover, Moomoo Player Pro is the easiest one to operate, supports much more games, including shooting, MOBA, RPG, strategy, and casual games. This emulator is perfect for both casual gamers and app developers who want to debug their app but don't want to spend precious time tweaking everything to work. Oh, and they're a sponsor in this video. Just click the link in the description and download Moomoo Player Pro now and start to enjoy a 7-day free trial. Transform your Mac into the ultimate Android gaming platform today. In my creative workflow right now, I don't edit videos that often, so most of the time all I do on my Mac is writing scripts, reading them, managing files, browsing the web, and so on. And for that, I don't need a huge set of apps. For documents, I use Google Docs. For browsing, I use Chrome. And for management, I use the standard Files app. And at first, I wanted to say how good the iPad is at replacing my MacBook for such simple tasks, but then I remembered that I also need to access my server and store all my data there. On the Mac, I have a dedicated app for syncing the files, but on the iPad, the only way for me to do it is through the Files app. And this is much less secure, but even if I ignore the security, there comes a much bigger problem. The files will not upload unless the Files app is open. Since the iPad OS is based on iOS, it has all the same problems. And as we all know, iOS doesn't like to work in the background. And if you're trying to upload files or download them in any app and then switch to another app to kill time, your files will not download or upload until you open up the app again. And for me, a person who needs to upload hundreds of gigabytes of footage every week, this is a huge problem. I can't just sit for hours and wait for files to upload. Also, even if you try to edit a video on your iPad, you might still encounter problems. For example, in the Final Cut, Apple's own video editing app, you cannot edit the videos from the external drive. You need to copy them to the internal storage first, and this is super annoying. And I'm not even talking about all those specific apps for 3D artists, architects, programmers, and so on. All the apps that simply don't exist on iPad. I don't really have problems with iPad OS itself. It's quick, snappy, and very convenient to use both with a trackpad and with my fingers. And it has some sort of a window management system too, called Stage Manager. On paper, it should let you use your iPad almost like your Mac with separate windows for different apps and different desktops. And if you connect the iPad to your external monitor, we'll create a separate desktop with windows. It's close to the MacBook experience, but only if you squint your eyes real hard, because that's where the limitations come in. Who would have thought? First, the windows in Stage Manager all have a couple of predetermined sizes, and you cannot arrange them in a complicated way. Two, different desktops may sound like a cool idea, but in reality, it just makes things complicated, forcing you to switch between desktops just to access different apps. And on each desktop, you have different sets of apps open, different window arrangements, and so on. That's just too much hassle. I don't know, I've tried this feature when it was launched, I tried it now, and it still feels half-baked, like something that's just not yet ready to exist. I also didn't really like the connectivity. On my MacBook Pro, I have all the ports I need, one for connecting the external monitor, one for SD cards, a magnetic charger, plenty of ports to spare. On an iPad, however, all I have is one Type-C port, used for charging and transferring data. There's another one in the keyboard, but it can only be used for charging, so if I want to use the iPad the way I use my MacBook, I need an adapter to plug all my stuff in. This not only looks, but also feels clunky. For a regular person who wouldn't connect more than a charger to their iPad, this won't be a huge deal. But if you are at least somewhat demanding, where you need to connect more than your AirPods, you're not gonna like it. The newest iPad Pro and iPad Air didn't change a thing here, and the newer models that will come next year won't change anything either. You know, I've gone so hard on the iPad for its downsides that it may seem like I completely forgot about all the good stuff, because there's a lot of it. iPad is a perfect device to watch movies when I'm laying in my bed. It's a great ebook reader, fantastic drawing tablet tablet, and so much more. So should you buy it to replace your Mac? Tough call, really. It all depends on what you plan on doing with your iPad. If you already have an iPad and you just want to get a slightly newer model, that's one story. But if you want to replace your Mac with your new iPad, that's a completely different one. If you already have an iPad Pro that's newer than 2018 or the iPad Air that's newer than 2020, I don't see the point in buying newer models. There are just not enough innovations to justify spending that much money on a tablet. And if you have a MacBook that you use for work on a daily basis, then you definitely should not replace it with an iPad. Only if you don't use your MacBook or use it only for watching videos and type in simple documents, only in this case, replacing the Mac with an iPad makes sense. For years, I've been saying that iPads feel strange. They are super powerful, super capable, incredibly thin and light, with great battery life and tons of capabilities, but it still seems to me that Apple can't find a meaningful use for them. Even with all the power of the iPad Pro, it's still only a glorified drawing tablet. In some cases, it can be much better than the Mac. For serious work, I would still go for the MacBook, even the iPad as a sidekick. That's just how it is. And in case you're looking for a new MacBook, we have a couple great videos about memory sizes and chips. Be sure to check them out. Thanks for watching and see you there.